Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Quranic Connection TV. And in today's daily Quran challenge, we are challenged with the verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that there is one ingredient that if you were to apply this in your life, it will give you success in your health, in your wealth, in your worship, in your relationships, in every area of your life. And that one ingredient is one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is throwing out to us, like making sure that we take it, we train it, and we keep it. And so in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون.
Now in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those who came before you. Why? So that you may be righteous, that you may be God conscious, that you may be of the people of taqwa. And we've spoken about the people of taqwa before many a time because that's what we're striving to become. And so my question is, like, I'm looking at this verse and I'm thinking, like, what has that got to do with the one ingredient for success? Like, I can't be fasting like 365 days a year. Like, surely Allah doesn't expect me to fast. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finishes this with ayyamin ma'dudat, these days which are confined, restricted to only those 30 days of Ramadan. Now, what do we learn from this verse? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that one of the greatest skills that we all need for every area of our lives, and that is discipline. Like, what's discipline got to do with fasting? Now, let's take a look at fasting. In fasting, in the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram for us, made impermissible for us, water, food, intimate relations during the day. All of these things have been made impermissible during the day. Allah has made impermissible all of the things that we would consider halal all year round. Like, it's halal to have a relationship with your wife or your husband. It's halal to eat and drink. No religion on the face of the planet forbids you from eating and drinking. These are the basic necessities. These are the basic desires, the basic needs of a human. It's not something that we fathom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would tell us that we can't have the basic necessities of life. Instead, Allah in this month, for the month of Ramadan, like, restricts us and says, no, you can't have what is halal. Normally, you can't have it. Why does Allah do that? Because what it does for us, like, if you imagine, like, in the month of Ramadan, you're fasting, you're not eating, you're not drinking. Like, what does it do for us? Like, it trains us to have discipline. It trains us to have discipline in our basic needs, not in the secondary things, the things that we want, we desire. The water and food are things that we take for granted because we have it on a daily basis without thinking. Like, many people don't have it, and they don't take it for granted because they don't have it. But you and I, we have it all the time. There's no shortage of water, there's no shortage of food. So the thing is, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you that you can't have food and water, the basic requirements, the source of life, because without food and water, you couldn't live. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us to create discipline. Like, where does that discipline come from? It comes from training yourself against your own desires. Because when you feel in the midsummer heat and you're thirsty and you really desire just a small bit of water, your throat is dry and all you need is a little bit of water. Like, Allah is training you here, like, to have discipline, like to put your mind and control over your desires. Your desire for your basic needs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling you through your own actions. Allah is teaching you to control yourself. Like, controlling yourself is the basis of discipline. Discipline is all about control. Like, it's not to lose control. Losing control is those people who are undisciplined, those people who follow their desires, do whatever their desires take them. So if your desire is telling you that I need this, then you go for this. Like, where is the discipline in that? Where is the control in that? Because discipline is nothing more than control, like control of your own nafs, of your own desires. Like, to have control, it gives you power. Those in control, they have power. So if you are in control of your own desires, you are in power over yourself. Your own capabilities, like, it is under your control. But if you cannot control your desires, if you can't take power over your desires, then your desires takes power over you. And this is what we call a lack of discipline, because a lack of discipline leads to what? That you lose control. And when you lose control, what happens is that your desires lead you in this direction, in that direction. And ultimately, the desires, it desires for things that aren't always good for it. Like, you may want things, like Allah has made relationships halal for you, but in the way of the manhaj of Allah, right? The method of Allah is what? Marriage. Under the umbrella of marriage, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you this. So it has to be controlled, right? It can't be uncontrolled, where you just have relations anywhere with anyone. Like, this is what happens if the desires rule over the person. So if you find yourself doing things that Allah is displeased with, if you find yourself doing things which are haram, why would you do those things except that you've lost control? Like, you've lost control. Like, you can't control yourself. You know it's wrong, but like, every time you're faced with that temptation, like, you crumble. You get weak at the knees. Like, someone sends you, like, maybe you're at work or at university, and someone of the opposite gender is flirting with you. And instead of like taking control of yourself and your desires, what do? Like, you start to giggle, and you start to like look at your phone, and you're thinking, and you're watching out for that message, or you're looking at your emails, and you're waiting for that email. But the thing is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us through Siyam, through the month of Ramadan, that how we can take control of ourselves. And look, taking control of yourself will lead you to the good. Allah doesn't forbid having a husband or a wife. Allah doesn't forbid having water or food. Allah doesn't forbid having wealth. Allah doesn't forbid having fun. Allah doesn't forbid anything. But Allah gives us a very conducive methodology. Conducive meaning one that is conducive to the whole of society, all of humanity. One that a method that, if we follow it, it creates for us like equilibrium, harmony in society, like where we can live with other people without clashing with them, without taking their rights, without killing each other. Like, Allah has created a system so that we can all live together in peace and harmony. And that's what Islam is all about. Islam will bring that to your life if you take control of your life. And the way to take control is like here in Ramadan, like in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us Ramadan as a training ground, right? Allah gives us the fasting as a training ground. You can do this outside of Ramadan. You don't have to wait until Ramadan. But Ramadan is like 29, 30 days straight. And what does 29, 30 days of fasting do for you? Like, in the first 2-3 days, you find it difficult, like to abstain from food and water, and you find it difficult because maybe of the heat or because you're not used to it. But then within 6-7 days, your body becomes used to it, and you become used to it. You start to gain strength and control over your desires, and you no longer desire to do the things. Like, you can lower your gaze, whereas outside Ramadan you find it difficult to lower your gaze. But in Ramadan you lower your gaze. You don't speak ill of other people because you're conscious of Allah. And this is what Ramadan was all about. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may be conscious of Allah. Like, it is to be pious, but piety is to be conscious of Allah. Righteousness and piety is nothing except to be connected to Allah at all times. So in your actions, in your thoughts. So when you look at something haram, like you're conscious of Allah, so you lower your gaze. When you're tempted with something haram, like something which is harmful, right? Like drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be, like, what do? Like, you're conscious of Allah, and so you lower your desires to the point of control. You take control of your desires, and that's discipline. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us that if we go through the month of Ramadan, like 30 days in a row, like doing the same actions over and over again, taking control, like, you will gain discipline. You will gain the discipline that you need to be able to do anything in life. And discipline is the key ingredient for success in your career. It's for success in your relationships. Because look, you go to work and you need to be disciplined. You've only got a certain amount of hours to get this work done and to do the most important thing first. But because you can't be, your desire is telling you, no, chill out, relax, like maybe read an email, grab a coffee, so you waste time. And that lack of discipline leads to you losing your time. And that time, by the end of the day, you can't finish the most important things. You can't finish all those things. Or whatever it is, like in your relationships, like you don't have discipline. You can't control yourself. You keep losing your temper. You keep blowing out. Like, how is that going to help you? Like, you lose control. Loss of control means loss. Absolutely, right? Loss of control means loss for you. Absolutely. Meaning whatever it is that you're losing control in, you lose in that. And so taking control means gain. Taking control means power. And taking control is discipline. And discipline is what will get you everything you need in this life and the hereafter. So inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to leave you with that. Don't forget, read the next page, think about the verses, like reflect. Our aim with this is to reflect on the verses and think about how we can benefit from it on a day-to-day basis. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.